Thank you very much, Derek, and Jeremy is going to be on position just to show you the slides for me. Well, as Derek mentioned, I'm the son of Dick Le Sueur. His Christian name was Albert Le Sueur, and he worked in Roy Bonquet's office in the 1930s. Grayson invited my father to join him in his office when he set up before the war, and after the war was in partnership with Grayson. So why am I starting with this slide? Well, we've heard Jeremy speak about Grayson's work in the 1930s. Derek's put that in an international context. Well, I'm going to give you more of a personal take on Grayson, talk about what he did during the war, and then a little bit about what I think are two very important buildings that he did after the war in Jersey. Finally, a house in St. Relard, which was built in 1962. But this slide is an exhibition centre in Lyon, France, and dates from 1914. It's by a very interesting architect called Tony Garnier, and shows the extraordinary possibilities opening up with the use of new technology, particularly glass and steel. Now the next slide shows the struggles, I think we can say, that the architect had trying to find a way to express this technology on the outside as well, a bit of a wedding cake. But in 1914 we're on the eve of the Great War, and of course all these great technological advances went into producing armaments, machinery of war. Although I'm going to talk about Grayson and the war later, first of all, the war to Grayson, my parents' generation, born in 1909 and 1919, of course meant the First World War. The Second World War was a mere detail, a continuation, if you like, or a last chapter of what started in 1914. Although my parents lost friends in World War II, it's not the same as the fundamental and lasting change the whole generation of young men lost during World War I. You only have to see the memorials in churches, schools and town squares in Britain and France and compare the numbers. Sometimes there are 60 killed in World War I in a small village and just 6 in World War II. So the 1920s, after the war to end all wars, idealistic architects produced their visions for a new society. One of the utopian schemes was produced by the same architect, Tony Garnier. His publication, Une cité industrielle, was very influential. Followed on from Victorian town planners, many of them English, the Garden City movement and others. They looked to zone the city, separating out industry and housing, transport interchanges, hospitals, etc. But amusingly, there was no prison or police station in any of Tony Garnier's works. It really was to be a brave new world. Next slide. So this is a stunning perspective, all before CAD, of course, all beautifully drawn and watercoloured, so it's quite an influential drawing. So, next slide, please. This is his future port complex. You can see the profile of the Lyon exhibition hall in the roof covering up the ships, which could dock and be loaded and unloaded in the dry. I'm not sure whether there's any sort of economic justification for that, but interesting to see what he was doing with the technology. Next slide, please. Industrial plant with hydroelectric dam in the background. It's all sustainable. There's really nothing new under the sun, is there? And finally, the clock tower and town hall. Now, workers' housing, not a terribly good slide, but workers' housing occupied a lot of architects in the 20s and 30s, and Grayson would have been very aware of all these issues. We've heard he worked in the office of Oliver Hill in London before launching an advert to come to Jersey. Both in London and in Jersey, who he would have known through the architectural press of everything happening in Europe. In Jersey, in Roy Blampier's office, and we have his Roy Blampier's son, Peter Blampier, here in the audience. He's 90, I believe.
Right, 90.
90, excellent. Thank you. We're very, very honoured to have you here. Again, Grayson would have kept abreast of all developments, and with my father, who he met as a junior technician in the office, they went all around Europe on motorcar tours of the latest French and especially Dutch architecture. People like Dawica, and going to hospitals and town halls, presumably not prisons. And in fact, I've got a copy of an original Le Corbusier book in the office, published in 1930, which was in my father's library at the time. So war came, and that brought an end to the perfect set of, perfect blend of circumstances, which we saw with Jeremy's slides, produced some of the most exciting architecture, not just in Europe, not just in Europe, but really worldwide. And it's certainly well worth a look at what was achieved there. Clearly, building was going to stop in Jersey during the occupation, or for the duration of the conflict. Grayson left for the UK, leaving my father to close down the office. My father, without any close family in Jersey, decided to do something useful and go and fight. He got on one of the last boats to leave Jersey, which of course stopped at Bristol because all the south coast ports were under bombardment. Deciding he wanted to join the Royal Air Force and be a Spitfire pilot, that sounded the exciting thing to do, went straight into the first RAF recruiting office he could find, and was told he was too old. So it's probably why I'm here today, but he then found the next recruiting office, which was for the National Fire Service. And because he liked lighting fires, he thought that would be a really good thing to do. And